Good evening. I'm the Vice Chair of the City of Saginaw Planning Commission. This is a regular meeting of the City Planning Commission. When the petition, special land use or site plan approval request in which you are interested is called, please come forward. Give your name and address to the Secretary for the record. After the appellate's presentation, others may comment. The meeting is videotaped. It is important that only one person speak at a time, and the audience observe respect for the speaker. An affirmative vote of the majority of the members present is necessary to grant a petition, special land use, or site plan approval. Recommendations on all petitions made by the Commission are then forwarded to City Council. Are there any questions? If there are none, the Secretary will call the roll.
All right. Tom Braley.
Present.
City and State.
Saginaw, Michigan.
Okay. Zenobia Dallas.
Present, Saginaw, Michigan.
Robert Hanley.
Present, Saginaw, Michigan.
Yolanda Jones.
Present, Saginaw, Michigan.
Brenda Moore.
Present, Saginaw, Michigan.
Jack Nash.
Present, Saginaw, Michigan.
And Jim Nightingale.
Present, Saginaw, Michigan.
All right, Mr. Vice Chair, we have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. First order of business is the approval of the minutes from the November 24th, 2020 City Planning Commission meeting. We have a motion?
So moved, Moore.
Support,
Second,
Nash.
Braley.
Any discussion? I have a question. Was Mr. Clark at the last meeting?
No, he wasn't. Sorry, I didn't send out an updated version, but yeah, I had to take him off. Sorry about that.
Motion's been made and seconded to adopt the minutes with the modification of Mr. Clark's attendance. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Hello?
The minutes for the November 24th meeting have been approved. Next item is approval of the agenda.
I move we approve the agenda as presented. Dallas.
Seconded, Braley.
Motion's been made to approve the agenda. It's been seconded. Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
The agenda has been approved. The first item of new business is case J200047, a public hearing on a special use permit for a marijuana establishment to be located at 110 South Mason Street. Is there anybody here to speak to that proposal?
Yeah, I'll get this started, Bob. John Morey with D&M Site Surveying and Engineering in Saginaw. The site is located on the corner of South Mason Street and Court Street. We have been given an address of 212 Court Street for that. The property is zoned by right. It's a B1 zone. We are sitting on 0.37 acres. It is a vacant lot right now. As you remember through the years, that's where they always used to sell Christmas trees there on the corner of Court Street. The property is 118 feet of frontage on Court Street, 139 feet of depth. And what we're proposing is a 2,500 square foot retail establishment. The parking requirements have been met, reviewed by Bob and Cassie. There is 10 parking spots required, 13 parking spots provided. The site utilities are all there, sanitary, storm, and water. We're abutting to the south. We're abutting a vacant lot at 116 South Mason. To the, we'll call it the east. We are abutting a 20-foot wide public alley that was vacated. Further to the east, we're abutting a vacant parcel on the corner of Court Street and South Oakley. The proposed plan for our buffering is to plant. We're going to plant shrubs on our southerly property line to block the car lights.
That's the guy.
We've met our stormwater requirements. We have 3 catch basins planned for this parking lot. We're required to have 529 cubic feet of storage, and we've provided 655 cubic feet of storage. So we've met all the engineering requirements on this project. We will have a new curb cut coming out onto Court Street. The curb cut on South Mason does exist. Without talking for another 10 minutes, if anybody has any engineering questions about this site, please let me know and I can try to address any of those. The review back from the city basically is telling us that we have met those requirements. We are awaiting the City of Saginaw engineering final review. We have been working with them on any of their comments and concerns. And I think that you guys were all provided with a checklist of all the items that that we have already met. So if anybody has any questions, I'll be more than happy to see if I can answer them for you.
I don't from a engineering view, but I do from the citizens who surround the perimeter.
Well, I'm going to introduce Trevor Wisniewski.
Okay.
Trevor is the developer on this property, and I think I'm going to turn it over to Trevor now, unless anybody has any engineering questions I can answer.
At this time, if Trevor's going to speak next, Mr. Hogard, I would ask that you mute your microphone until you do have an opportunity to speak during the.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you. I appreciate that. And thanks, John. My name is Trevor Wisniewski. I do have a cheat sheet in front of me, so by times you might see me looking down just to make sure I'm following my notes. But I'm in Keego Harbor, Michigan. I'm the president of Great Lakes Natural Remedies. We're a vertically integrated seed-to-sale Michigan-based cannabis company. I personally grew up in Saginaw. I attended St. Stephen's most of my life until it closed, and then I graduated from Arthur Hill in '87. Obviously moved out to town and got some college degrees, and now I'm back in the area starting cannabis. So GLNR right now, our company, Great Lakes Natural, has 8 dispensary locations, 3 grow locations, and 1 extraction lab. We're experienced. We've been operating in this legalized cannabis industry for years here in the state of Michigan. And actually our main headquarters is located just outside the city over in Spalding Township, the old Timbertown bowling alley or flea market. That's where our main grow and extraction lab is. We're excited to be part of the city and the projects that we're presenting to you. And just so you know that our products that are manufactured there in Spalding Township, just outside the city, which we employ many city residents at, those products are going to be filling this store. So we're not going to be filling the store with just a lot of other products outside of the city of Saginaw. So tonight, I'm requesting a special use permit for the marijuana retailer located at 110 South Mason. This is a new build, new construction on a vacant lot. And as John said, our project complies with all zoning and the ordinance. This dispensary will be unique in that it'll be partially woman-owned by a woman in Saginaw. So this location is actually going to have woman ownership and local Saginaw ownership. So I want to go over a few things. To begin, I want to just go over and review that the additional information that we have set aside that was required by the commission for our marijuana business. And then I want to go secondly over some of the benefits of this location. And then thirdly, I want to dispel some of the myths about cannabis, because on our call last month, I did notice that there was some community letters that, address some concerns of cannabis. So I wanted to discuss that lastly. So to talk about the additional information, above the site plan information provided by Mr. Maury, we were required to present supplemental information. On this plan, page 5, we have our proposed marijuana establishment plan that's required by the city and required by the Act. On page 11, we have all of our building elevations, our existing and proposed site changes, and our site plan with signage. On page 14, we have a proposed security plan, which is very in-depth, which talks about not only a security plan, but also prevention to minors. This is going to be reviewed by the Chief of Police for review. And please note that never is consumption allowed on the property. That's mandated by the state and the city law. On page 22, we have a proposed marijuana destruction and waste management program. And in addition to that, any odors in this dispensary are filtered through carbon filtration systems. And on page 25 is our official paperwork and our state licenses that we currently hold. And then finally, which sums up this packet, are the notarized documents required by the city from the owner of the property and me as the operator, acknowledging that this property is going to be used for a marijuana establishment and that the city can come in anytime and inspect us. So to summarize so far, we went over the site plan with John, and all the additional information has been provided. So we have fulfilled the requirements for this special use permit request. So what are of this? The benefits of this project: we are looking to invest in the city, building new construction on a vacant lot, and this is estimated at $750,000 when we're done to be able to open the doors. Our presence and capital investment will actually increase the nearby businesses and real estate. And number 3, in addition to our 5,000 yearly license, our operations from this one location is estimated to contribute $70,000 annually to the city's revenue via the excise tax that you get to collect. And 4th, it's more jobs for the city. And number 5, seeing that we are a dispensary, we will have 24-hour security and video surveillance cameras all around our property, which is right there in the neighborhood. So I've reviewed our plans, the benefits, and now let's talk about cannabis, because I know that's on everyone's minds. There are a lot of assumptions about the nature of our business. Crime will go up, there's more traffic accidents, negative impacts on the community, only druggies come and shop for weed. You name it. There's all kinds of them. So what we've done as a group is we've actually compiled factual data from case studies. I'm going to make some statements, and then right after I make the statement, I will tell you the source that it came from. And I got 6 of them just to go over. The first one says adult use legalization is not associated with adverse effects on traffic safety, and that cannabis dispensaries is inversely associated with traffic deaths. This source is the American Journal of Public Health, the National Bureau of Economic Research, and the Colorado Department of Health. Number 2, the establishment of cannabis retailers is not associated with more criminal activity. This comes directly from comments from the governor of Colorado and the Journal of Urban Economics. Number 3, the passage of adult use cannabis laws is not associated with any casual uptick in youth marijuana use. In fact, rates of cannabis by use by young people has declined. The source of this is child and adolescent psychiatry. I only got 3 more, sorry. Retail cannabis facilities are associated with rising house values. And that is data from the real estate economics, and it's also from a University of Mississippi working paper with data derived in Colorado. 5th, marijuana regulation is associated with declining alcohol consumption, and that is a study done by Time magazine, time.com. And then lastly, retail cannabis access is associated with reduced opioid consumption by the public. And that is from the Journal of Health Economics. And these are all case and factual data that you can look up. Another big thing is a misnomer is our demographics. We have a dispensary. I can tell you exactly who comes in there because I can pull the reports. And I will tell you, based on this year alone, with over 7,000 customers, unique customers coming into one location, age 20 to 30 is 24% of our population. Age 30 to 40 is 25% of our population. And actually, 50 and up is 34% of our population. So in my dispensary right now, over half the customers are over 40 years old and have an average sale over $100. These are our dispensary customers tend to be older, not younger. Now, also with the benefits to the community, there are auxiliary benefits to business because as people travel to neighborhoods with dispensaries, they tend to spend money at nearby businesses. And experts say that dispensaries actually have the potential to revitalize overlooked pockets in communities. So just to summarize, our plans have checked all the boxes you require. We are improving a vacant piece of land to positively affect the community with an estimated $750,000 investment. Local benefits will, local businesses will benefit, and cannabis is not as bad as people think, and it actually ends up benefiting people and the community. I thank you for your time, and I respectfully ask for your support on this project. Thank you.
Is there anybody else who would like to speak on this case?
Yes, I would. My name is Don Huggard.
Address, please.
Saginaw, Michigan. I'm the owner of the property at 120 South Mason.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you for allowing me to speak. I did a survey and got the concerns of all the residents that form a 1-block perimeter around this property. I didn't go 2 to 3 blocks out, just the nearby residents who have their concerns. Some of the concerns were addressed by Trevor, but I'd like to go over the concerns of the people that surround the area because they are opposed, and I am opposed to this special use permit. First of all, they are concerned about the business being put near residential homes and the type of product they sell and the type of clientele it may attract. They're concerned about the extra presence of police because of the type of product sold. Concerned about Michigan Lutheran Seminary students who are located just a few blocks away. Now, I know you have to be 21 to buy the product, but just increased access could create problems in the dormitory and school. A few years ago, Lutheran Seminary was going to shut down and just use their Wisconsin site. I know this because I'm a Lutheran, and this may impact their decision to stay in the future, and it would be devastating for the city of Saginaw and the local residents if they were to leave. The corner of Court Street in Mason has quite a few accidents, and with a high volume of traffic and people stopping just before that stop sign to turn into the dispensary, we're concerned about even more accidents. And for that reason, we ask that the site not be built, or at a minimum, not have access off Mason Street. For owners of rental properties, we're concerned about getting good prospective tenants that will not want to live near a place that sells drugs. Trevor answered the one about inline filtration. He did say that the exhaust odors would be covered or captured by a carbon system, so that was answered. Most new builds bring in fill dirt, which raises the level, and I do own the property on 116 and 120 Mason, and I am worried about the higher elevation flooding out my area. The proposed site driveway does not have a fence that separates it from the nearest property, which is 116 South Mason, and it's only 5 feet away. They do have a plan to plant some trees on its east side, I believe, but it doesn't span across the entire property. That leaves that property open, and it would be very dangerous for little kids in that parking lot, which only 5 feet from the driveway that they have planned, and they don't plan to put a fence or anything there. That would be quite dangerous for the residents with little kids. There must be some code that prevents that, and that's one of the reasons I asked that an access point not be put off Mason Street. Now, like I said, I spoke to many residents in the area. We were just informed 10 business days prior to this meeting. It does appear as though this has been in the works for some time. We also feel that there's a direct conflict with a member of the Planning Commission being the seller in question. Now, we understand he will not be voting, but does stand to profit from this. About 20 years ago, a Rite Aid pharmacy wanted to build on this site, but their request was denied by the city. They then chose another location at 5050 Gratiot. That's where the Rite Aid is located now. Now, as residents, we're not opposed to having a business there. It's just that marijuana, that type of business. We are concerned about our property values going down, and I know that Trevor mentioned that these teams in Colorado they went up, but also Colorado has a Facebook, a Microsoft, and an Amazon. We don't have that here in Saginaw, and there's a big difference between what he cites at Colorado and what we have here in the city of Saginaw. Now, we know the city's done an excellent job in knocking down abandoned houses to reduce blight, but we feel that adding a marijuana dispensary would be a step backwards. And finally, in closing, we know that the notice sent to residents is required by state law. We hope our opinions of the very closest residents around this area, we hope our opinions count, and the special use permit will be denied for this type of business. Thank you.
Mr. Vice Chair, I just want to add to what Mr. Hubbard said in terms of the people who signed the points that he just went through, because I received the written document. So I'm going to read to you the names that were added to with that letter. So there's Don Huggard at 120 South Mason, Janet Huggard, 120 South Mason, Lynn Vila, 1207 Adams, Lori, and I apologize for these names, Tylot, I think, 117 South Mason, Kathy Belair, 1200 Adams, Michael Alley, 1314 Adams, Shannon, sorry, I can't read it, 1320 Adams, Wendy Azazao, I'm not sorry, I'm not sure how to pronounce that. 120 South Mason, Michael Davis, 113 South Mason, Antoine Fair, 122 Oakland, David Ortega maybe, 1321 Court, Carla Hart, 1322 Court, Rebecca Castile, 1307 Adams, Shannon List, 130 South Mason, Judith Wagner, 1303 Court, William Wagner, 1303 Court, and Jennifer McHenry, I think, 1212 Court. And three more. James List at 130 Mason, Vicky Lawson, 2905 Cooper, and Stephanie Rivard, 600 Court. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else to speak on this case?
Yeah,
Hello, can you hear me? This is Don Keppen. Can you hear me? Hello,
Yes.
this is Don Keppen. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I would like to speak on it when it is time. I lost my video and had to switch to another computer, so I'm just on voice.
Go ahead.
Okay. I have been the property owner at 1321 Court Street for Tune Up and Go Auto Service Center for 27 years. I now am the mortgage holder on a land contract for a future owner. I listened to Trevor, and Trevor, you're a good promoter, and I compliment you on that. And I just listened to Donald Hogarth's concern, and it is my understanding that we are beyond the point, unless my misunderstanding is incorrect, we are beyond the point of knowing whether or not this business can go in. I can be corrected on that, I would hope. But at this point, I was informed that basically this is a zoning issue as to the type of the building, whether it meets conformity, etc. Am I correct on that?
The Planning Commission can't answer questions during a public hearing. This is your time to voice your concerns.
Oh, well, that's wonderful. When can the Planning Commission answer questions then?
Staff can make notes of your questions and respond back to you following that. But this is a public hearing on a special use permit, so it's your time to express your concerns with the application and possible permit.
Okay, one of the concerns I have, having been on the next block over for 27 years, is the type of traffic that is on Mason and Woodbridge and Court Street. Many times people would come out of the current service or gas station and convenience center and cut across my property while I was in there. And actually there was one accident that I remember, and there may have been more because I was kind of an absentee owner and had people run that service business. So and it was brought up that somebody did not want an entrance off of Mason, but then again on Court Street, I believe it is still 4 lanes at that point, or maybe it's already narrowed down to 2 lanes. I can't remember. In front of me, it's 4 lanes traffic, okay, 2 each way. And Court Street is a busy intersection. So one of the concerns that I have for the safety of the citizens is that you seriously look at how you would enter and how you would exit this particular business. That is the biggest concern that I have from the Planning Commission on entry and exit. The concern that Mr. Hogarth brought up in regards to fencing, etc., I think should be a valid concern for the committee to consider. The last wholesale, retail, whatever you want to call this cannabis store that I was at was in San Francisco. And it was in a little shopping center similar to, well, not similar to, it was on a corner and you drove into the shopping center. And there were all kinds of people hanging around that particular cannabis center. Now, again, Saginaw may be different than San Francisco, may be different than San Francisco when the time comes to the clients that you have that are buying this particular product. I am not against business. I am pro-business, and I also know that Saginaw definitely needs the money to support whatever it doesn't have. So, but I still am concerned about in an area and particularly in that area that I was there for 27 years, and seeing the change in that area from east side Saginaw to now the court area, the west side Saginaw area, as to the change in demographics. I do not believe, although it may be too late, but I can express the opinion anyway, that I do not believe that it will be beneficial in that area to the residents. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, could I say one other thing? This is Don Huggard.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, on the names that Mr. Galeen submitted to you, the ones that we gave to him, 4 of those were businesses, 2 directly across from the site, and they were, again, within a 1-block area. And I, too, have had people turn into my driveway, cut across the parking lot, tear up my yard, and then go out that entrance that's already there. And so it is a problem. Thank you.
I would like to voice my opinion.
Your name and address, please.
My name's Gabriel Acevedo, Saginaw, Michigan. I'm 25. I grew up here. I am an upcoming business owner. I have my own company, Green Beans, and what it is, it's gonna, it's a studio production, and something that we want to do is look for the future of Saginaw. So my opinion is saying that I could see cannabis helping the company helping the community of Saginaw. I've traveled to California and Texas for cannabis ideas and how, what it does for its community. So I would like to say that from what Saginaw is capable of doing, I think we're capable of having a cannabis company come to Saginaw. The location on Court and Mason, I think, is a spot that might help the community. I think there should be more surveying done because it's a big community in that area, So whatever is the skepticals of, people not, maybe it's too high of a traffic or something of another business. I think that other businesses will probably do a lot better in 2021 or maybe even 2022, depending on when this could be up and operational. There's a lot that the community does want, and I think a dispensary coming into the city of Saginaw is something that would even help a lot of people, feel more involved to probably get out more and see what else is around the area. I know that the Court Street Theater would probably benefit a lot because right across from them is a tapes and record store, and these are things that people in that industry like to do. And the industry of cannabis is growing. It's not going to stop growing because we don't allow a business to come into Saginaw. So we have to consider that either way, within 5 years or 10 years, there's going to be a dispensary no matter what, I feel like. I would hope, because it's just like a liquor company 100 years ago. So I could see 10, 5 more, maybe 30. It's going to be here in Saginaw. So we should survey more, and I think the Planning Commission should really consider thinking about the future of Saginaw in that that industry, because it's going to give a lot back to the community, and the community will benefit. I don't see it having anything of a difference. Just because it's a new company coming in that has to deal with marijuana doesn't mean it's going to bring violence. So let's really consider this and really think about what the people of Saginaw need and the future of Saginaw too, because there's a lot of youth in Saginaw and there's a lot of older people in Saginaw too, but we all have to work together and we have to really figure out the future because it's going to be important. So thank you. That's my opinion. Again, thank you for listening.
Is there anybody else who'd like to speak on this subject?
I would like to.
Your name and address, please?
My name is List, and my address is 130 South Mason.
Okay, go ahead.
My gosh, I just saw myself. Sorry. I would like to just add a few things. What Mr. Hogard had said is absolutely true. I personally went around to some businesses, and they may not have signed that, but the more interesting thing is that none of those businesses were aware except for one. And they were on the fence as to what was happening, and eventually signed that little letter. But none of the ones on Court Street that I went to were aware of it. And my husband and I contacted the churches in the area with the schools of the churches in the area. None of them had been informed of this at all. I think that concerns us a whole lot because there is also on the corner a nice little liquor store, which in talking with one of the business owners on Court Street, said, oh, that's great. Have that there now, along with the liquor store. Guess where they're all going to park? And guess where all the glass is? The glass has grown exponentially in their little parking lot. And I was a witness to part of that as well. So they thanked me for this information, but they were not aware of anything. And that, I think, that is what is getting us a lot, because the transparency wasn't there. We were notified of this in the very beginning of December. We had, 10, 15 days total before this to do some research on it, and knowledge is power. We didn't have any. You took that from us. We love this place. We just don't want it to go downhill. And with everything that Mr. Hogard had said, I've seen, and that's pretty much all I can say.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anybody else who would like to speak on this subject?
I would like to speak.
Go ahead, name and address, please.
Go ahead, Stephanie.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Braley. I'm actually the owner of the lot, and I also am the owner of the Court Street Theater as well. And obviously I support this. I do believe, trying to help the community. That's what we did when we bought the Court Street Theater. We tried to bring life back to that area. And I think that having the extra traffic and having a new business on that location would actually help the area and revitalize it a little bit more as well.
Thank you.
Yes.
Is there anybody else who would like to speak on this subject?
Hello. My name is Russell Inman. My address is 110 Braley Street in Saginaw, Michigan. I grew up I consider Court Street and that block of Court Street in particular part of my neighborhood because I grew up on the first block of Brockway, and my whole life growing up, we walked down to the Court Street Theater on Saturdays and saw double matinees and everything. I think there's a misunderstanding among some of the people in the neighborhood, maybe, that this a dispensary is nowhere similar to a liquor store, because a liquor store is also a party store where just anybody can walk into. To gain entry into a dispensary, you have to present ID, and there's security measures and all kinds of stuff. They don't just allow anybody in there. It's more of like a pharmacy than a party store. That being aside, since I've been all my entire life, for more than 4 decades, this block on the south side of Court Street between Oakley and Mason has been vacant. I understand there used to be a whole block of building there many, many years ago. But Obviously, those have been gone for some time, and any kind of encouragement for this city to get economic development, especially in these areas zoned for it, and that can support that because they have the capacity in the streets. I think this would be an excellent opportunity to expand the tax base, encourage jobs, and actually lift our community back up by bringing in customers that will actually support other businesses when they're stopped. And I think that if this were to be approved, I think that the neighborhood would be shocked, and rightly so, in a positive direction, in a positive way, that this will add value to the community and not be anything like the misconceptions of what they're seeing at the liquor store, which used to be the former 7-Eleven. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who would speak on this subject?
Mr. Vice Chairman, I have two letters that I received that I need to add to the public record. First one is an affidavit. Says personally came and appeared before me, the undersigned notary with the name Pastor Sue Hand, who is the resident of Midland County, state of Michigan, and pastor of Zion Lutheran Church, 1209 Hancock Street in Saginaw, makes this or her statement, affidavit upon oath and affirmation of belief and personal knowledge of the following matters, facts and things set forth are true and correct to the best of her knowledge. Great Lakes Natural Remedies by the President, Trevor Wisniewski, has the intent to have a retail marijuana establishment located at the current vacant lot located at 110 South Mason /1215 Court Street, Saginaw, Michigan. The undersigned pastor of Zion Lutheran Church, Hancock Street, Saginaw, Michigan, supports GLNR locating and operating a retail marijuana establishment located at the current vacant lot located at 110 South Mason, 1215 Court Street. The second letter that I received says, I'm James Lifts. My wife Sharon and I lived in 130 South Mason for 31 years. We're both retired, her from banking and I from teaching. On Thursday, December 3rd, we received a postcard giving notice of public hearing to establish a marijuana business at 110 South Mason. I asked myself, why now? We're in the midst of a deadly pandemic, middle of the holiday season, and we're given less than 2 weeks to prepare for this virtual meeting. I'm told by a council member it's because someone with resources wants a special permit. Wow, I imagine he may be very important person with lots of resources, and why here? At first I thought, well, maybe they don't like churches since there's 5 within a half a mile, 2 within a couple of 100 yards, and maybe they don't like schools, with the Holy Cross Elementary and Michigan Lutheran Seminary being within a half mile, and Thompson Middle just down the street. Well, I was wrong. I would learn it's because this individual with resources has another business across the street. I'm thinking conflict of interest. Is this what the city calls transparency? Wait until right after an election. Give the absolute minimum of time to prepare. Form only a few residents on the block and allow one individual with money and influence, who is also the Saginaw Planning Commission, to prevail over worshipers, students, and the resident in the area. I also understand the proximity is closer than you would have otherwise allowed, but you decided that was okay anyway, since it would have made it next impossible to find a location. Seems as though this may have more to do with the position an individual developer is in. Wonder why that might be. I leave you with one more thought. We all know the knowledge of power. You have certainly left us with neither. It is painfully obvious that our city leaders seem to have no interest, no regard for people who actually live in the city that I love. It's very sad. But hey, we'll keep paying our taxes so we don't lose what we have worked so hard for. Regards, James List and Sharon List. And that's it. Thank you.
Is there anybody else who would like to speak on this case, specifically on the case?
Trevor would like to speak one last time. Trevor from Keego Harbor, Great Lakes Natural. Well, I appreciate all the public comment, good or bad. We are in an allowable zone. We are checking all the boxes with the ordinance and the zoning. We want to invest money into the community. We want to add revenue to the city by this location. No business there is going to provide revenue like we do with an excise tax. And this whole topic is not about do we like it or not. The Planning Commission has developed a map and an ordinance which was approved by the city. And this is now an ordinance and a viable legal business in the city of Saginaw and in the state of Michigan. It's not about like or dislike anymore. It's a matter of if I'm following the rules to fit my business in the ordinance and within the zoning. And I have done both. And also that last letter that was read for support of us was from Zion Church. So there are people out there that support us. And it's not just a blanket, every church or school hates us, like the last letter said. One other thing I'd like to note is that the gentleman that owns the tune-up shop, it's my understanding through the realtor I know that's involved in that deal, he actually has that contracted with a cannabis company and will be applying for that next month. So that's why I believe he is negatively speaking out against me, so he can get his approved because he's within 500 feet of this location. So in summary, I'm checking all the boxes, following all the rules, everything that this Planning Commission and the city has outlined for me to have a viable business in the city, and this site complies 100%. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. This is not a forum for debates. This is an opportunity for citizens to express their view. And please keep your comments to the specific issue and not make ad hominem attacks on people. So is there anybody else who would like to speak that hasn't spoken yet on this particular case? Is there anybody else who would like to speak on this case?
Yes, I would.
Go ahead. Your name and address.
Yep, my name is Andrew Nauman. I'm at 2100 Court Street.
Okay.
I guess maybe Trevor, I thought he had some very good points that he made. I just had a few follow-up questions before I kind of say one way or the other if I'm for this or against this. And also maybe one the city could answer too. One of the questions I have that I'm not aware of are, what are just the basic hours of this establishment? What are the planned hours?
Again, this is
Can
a
that be
public
answered?
hearing, so it's not a time to ask questions of city staff or of the planning commission. This is a public hearing, and it's an opportunity for you to express concerns about the special use permit application that has been submitted.
Something happened. We can't hear you anymore, Andrew.
Hello.
This is Don Keppen. Can you hear me?
Let me see.
I apologize for that. I don't know why my sound went out. May I still speak? I understand my question was not so much, I guess, pointed towards the city than more towards Trevor. If he would perhaps want to answer that, I think that would be nice to know so I can speak one or the other. What are the approximate hours. If you'd like to, that's fine. Some questions or some points I'd just like us to consider. While I agree with another business in the city, and I get that people, it was mentioned by one person about cannabis, and then you have records, things like that across the street. I would also make the point that while Court Street Theater is across the street, many people that go to movie theaters are younger people. I have 4 children under the age of 12. I think that's something to consider too, that those are people that would want to use that area. Another thing then, I'd like us to step back for just a moment. I'm not a Saginaw resident my whole life. I actually grew up in the Dakotas. I've had a job here for the last 13 years. And our family has grown to love Saginaw. It offers so many things. But I will tell you, the first comment that comes out of people's mouths when they hear that I'm from Saginaw is Sag nasty, drugs, shootings, high criminal. Now, I'm not saying that this cannabis would bring any of that up. It's worked in many other states, countries, things like that, but I do think there is something to consider when we talk about putting a dispensary in. I think there was a point that Trevor brought up, which is interesting, about another one going in down the street. I think it would be good for the Planning Commission to consider how many will you allow in a certain area. Is that the type of businesses, a bunch of them we want going in all the way down the street potentially, if there's another one maybe being considered?
Mr. Hartler, I'm sorry, but you're beyond speaking on this particular case. So you've already spoken once. Is there anybody else who has something to say on this case?
No, this is Mr. Noman that's speaking. He came back in, so this is the first time he's addressed.
I'm sorry. I thought it was Mr. Haggard.
So then my last point about this is, I see many people walking down the streets, many students, whether it be from Thompson, Arthur Hill, things like that. While I know there's security involved, we also have to understand that while this is legal in the state of Michigan, this is not federally allowed. And that is an issue that I don't know if we want to be the first place to be rushing into this. I have my bus driver's license. I can't touch anything with CBD oil in it, because I could potentially lose my license. While we have wonderful freedoms in this country, I don't know if Saginaw, with its name, things like that, the wonderful things it's been doing, wants to be the leader in this area. That I would speak against this. I would speak against it for those reasons in this area. I think a different area, fine. But I would speak against this in this area.
I would like to add one final comment, if I may. This is Don Keppen. Trevor, first of all, I don't know what they're trying to plan in there, because the realtor, I don't have contact with. I just hold a mortgage company. It's on a land contract, and if they forfeit, it goes back to me. In regards to Stephanie Braley owning the Court Street Theater, parking lot would have been a good idea there, because
Mr. Keppen, this isn't a time to debate the other speakers. It's just a time to raise concerns about the application for the special use permit.
Okay, the other concern about the application is, I specified earlier, I saw several cannabis places in San Francisco, and they were heavily guarded with special security places. And the concern is here, as they brought up about the students, there are many students in that area walking back and forth, and some of the clientele that I saw in San Francisco was not desirable for a particular neighborhood as we have. This was not in that type of a neighborhood. So I would encourage the city of Saginaw to look a little more and inform the residents who you have been informed, have not been informed, more than 100 yards or 100 feet from the area. I think that's important if the city of Saginaw wants to come out of its deficit, or if maybe you're not in deficit anymore, but I probably believe you are, and to grow the city, you need to communicate more with the people. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to comment on this case?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to speak.
Go ahead, your name and address, please.
Mark Lutzow, 2711 Hardin Street. I serve as the president of Michigan Lutheran Seminary. Speaking on behalf of our school, I would like to speak against the concept. Aside from personal opinions about cannabis, the benefits of it, the detractions of it, it does come with a certain stigma. As a school who tries to draw clientele from all across the United States, having a dispensary within earshot of our school is one that will be a detraction. We've been on that plot of land in Saginaw. We've loved being at that place since 1887. We've been in a lot of ways an anchor on that block, and we feel like we bring a valuable presence to the community there. If our students are walking down that direction, students are resourceful, sometimes in bad ways. It is illegal for them to buy alcohol. They find ways to do it. It is unfortunate. It is something we address and something that we certainly discourage. But to think that just because there is a security presence that will not be a temptation for our students is something that I think is a little naive. Security is security, and they're human as well. They're going to have issues, and they will not be able to prevent all of that. As a man who has a family, has 3 teenage boys that live in the area, it's something that would be of concern for me as well. It's not something that I would like to see in our particular neighborhood. I can't speak for other neighborhoods. And so, Mr. Wisniewski, I appreciate all the points that you have made, but I think you have to recognize that there is a stigma that comes with the cannabis products, and that I think that would be something that would be a detriment to our service, our ministry here in this community. So thank you for your time, and thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this case? Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this case? We have a motion to close the public hearing on case J200047, special use permit for a marijuana establishment at 110 South Mason Street.
I so move, Dallas.
Support Jones.
Motion to close the public hearing has been made and supported. Is there any discussion?
I have a question, Mr.
Sorry, hold on. Robert, can you, so just call for a vote to close it, and then we'll do a motion to approve, and then we have the discussion.
See, I didn't hear that. I heard Brenda wanted to speak.
Call for the vote to close. Call for the vote to close the hearing, and then we'll do another motion to approve, and then we'll have the discussion.
Okay, so the motion is to close the public hearing. It has been made and seconded. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
The public hearing is closed. Now we need a motion to approve case J200047, special use permit for a marijuana establishment to be located at 110 South Mason Street.
I move we approve case J200047, special use permit for marijuana establishment to be located at 110 South Mason Street, Dallas.
Support, Nash.
Motion's been made and supported. Now is there discussion?
Yes, I have a question. Am I hearing right that the citizens weren't notified in a timely manner about the facility going up? I mean, is this the time to talk about it? Because it would seem like...
Sorry, Brenda. So according to the zoning ordinance, and this is true for all public hearings, anytime that citizens need to be notified, we send postcards to every resident, so every address, and then also every owner to every property within 300 feet. That was sent 15 days prior to the meeting, so everybody saying they got it about 12 to 10 days is just the time it took to get there. So that is what we do for every single public hearing.
Did everyone hear her answer? Because I know her voice is starting to cut out.
Muffling.
I'm sorry.
So what she said was that all of the notices were sent within 15 days of the public hearing, which is by ordinance. They were sent to properties within 300 feet of the site, and also to the owners, and likewise if there are just residents renting, those folks got notices as well. So all of it was conducted within the ordinance as specified.
Okay, my other question is this, is that I hear owners of the property, correct me if I'm wrong, they're owners or they're stockholders, or I'm not sure how it goes, but I'm hearing them saying that they're against it. So was this settled? Has this thing been settled with the purchaser? Has it been a purchase? Is it up in the air? I guess I need some clarification, because I'm hearing it go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
Brenda, are you talking about whether there's a question about whether the owner of the property for this parcel?
Right.
No.
Oh, okay.
No. And any developer under the ordinance has to have some form of permission to use the property, whether they own it, they lease it, they land contract it. That's part of the requirements.
Okay. That's it, Mr. G. I'm sorry.
Okay. I have a question for Mr. Wisniewski, I guess. Normally, when we get these engineering plans, et cetera, we also get a rendering of the building that's going to be built. And one of the things that we are very conscious of on this issue in the past is making sure they don't look like a dungeon or some kind of what can I say? Some kind of a blockhouse. And we always look at the windows, that kind of thing. We didn't even get a rendering on this proposed new building. Can you explain that?
Sure. The building elevation, signage, and floor plan is all submitted in that supplemental additional information that is required by the city.
So you have submitted it?
Correct. Yep.
On the very last page of your packet is the rendering. It isn't in color, so that could be why it was confusing.
For this particular?
Yes.
Okay, I stand corrected. I thought it was for the Bay Road facility.
No.
Any other discussion? All right, we need, we have a motion, so now I guess it's a roll call on the motion.
Okay. Tom Braley.
I recuse my vote.
Zenobia Dallas.
Mr. Braley?
Yes.
Okay.
I said I recuse my vote.
You abstain?
Yes.
Zenobia Dallas.
Yes.
Robert Hanley.
Yes.
Yolanda Jones.
Yes.
Brenda Moore. I didn't hear that. No?
No.
Jack Nash.
Yes.
Jim Nightingale.
Yes.
All right, the special use permit has been approved.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next item under new business is case J200048, a public hearing on a special use permit for a marijuana establishment to be located at 1014 Gratiot Avenue. Is there anybody here who would like to comment on this case?
Yeah, Bob, I'll get started with that. John Morey with D&M Site Surveying and Engineering in Saginaw. The site is located at 1014 Gratiot. It is the point of Brockway and Gratiot Avenue. This building was built about 110 years ago, and I don't know if you remember the old Smith Brother hardware store was in there back in the day. It has served a couple other purposes through the years. The building is almost 5,000 square feet, and it is zoned per use, B2 zone. It is located next to the Hamilton Street Bakery. The Hamilton Street Bakery actually owns the parking lot between the two structures. There is a cross parking agreement in place for that parking lot. And that property is also zoned B2. As we got into the engineering of this, we had to construct the parking requirements based on 3 separate buildings. The building at the point, the Hamilton Street Bakery, and we then went across the street, across Gratiot Avenue, to 1009 Gratiot to meet our parking requirements. The total gross square footage of the floor areas of those 3 structures was over 11,000 square feet. The parking requirement is 1 parking spot for every 250 square feet, which made our parking requirement 46 required parking spots. As you can see on the site plan, the parking lot between the point and the Hamilton Bakery has 16 parking spots. The parking lot on the south side of Gratiot has 20 parking spots, and so we needed to come up with some 8 additional parking spots. And so what we did was went to a lot on the westerly side of the bakery where we are going to tear down an old house that was built in the 1890s, I believe. And over on that parcel, we will get 8 more parking spots to meet our parking requirement for this project. Now, in so doing that, we will be completely renovating all 3 parking lots to meet the City of Saginaw's requirements for stormwater detention, as well as the setback requirements, fencing, and screening. All 3 sites are served by public utilities. We will be adding new catch basin structures within those parking lots. Again, all the fencing and screening will be in place. On the site at 1100 Gratiot, which will be this old house that will be tore down, there will be a 5-foot wall constructed for screening for the next, the abutting residential parcel. And the same is true for the parcel on the 1009 Gratiot on the southern side of the road. There will be a 5-foot wall constructed around the south and a portion of the westerly property line. Again, this is zoned correctly, zoned by right, and we have met all of the city's requirements for the engineering specifications. And it's a little tricky site. Back in the, when this building was constructed 110 years ago, there wasn't zoning setbacks. There wasn't the zoning requirements that are in place today. Made this site a little trickier than normal to meet those requirements. And we came up with some ideas with the help of the owner of these two properties to make this site work. This is my favorite site out of all of them that I've done so far. To see these old buildings come back to life and to get people back in our old buildings in this community is, I'd rather do this than a brand new build. Sorry, Trevor, but I'd rather do this than a brand new one. To see these old buildings come back to life. I know they don't meet all these zoning requirements for setbacks and parking and what have you. Heck, Smith Brother Hardware sold buggy whips. So anyway, we've met these zoning requirements or the engineering requirements on this site. And again, if anybody has any engineering questions about these, I can be more than happy to try to answer them for you. And I want to introduce Trevor now then at this point. Trevor is the developer of this site also. So let me turn this one back over to Trevor.
Thank you, John. I appreciate it. Again, my name is Trevor Wisniewski. It's Keego Harbor, Michigan. That's where our headquarters are here in the Detroit area. President, Great Lakes Natural Remedies, Michigan-based seed to sale company. You've heard my story. I've grown up in Saginaw, graduated from Arthur Hill. Our company, does have dispensary locations, grow locations, extraction lab. Been in the business for 2 years. Again, just a reminder, we are the one, the old Timber Town bowling alley or flea market. And tonight, what I'm doing is requesting a special use permit for a marijuana retailer located at 1014 Gratiot. And this is actually a very large project that ultimately affects 5 properties in and around 1014 Gratiot. It's estimated that I alone am probably going to be putting in over $1.2 million just in redevelopment of this area. Then this also is a partnership with a local resident, Russ Inman. So this location will have local ownership by a Saginaw resident. I'm not going to go over everything like I did last time, but all of the additional information that's required by the Planning Commission and by your ordinance has been provided in a supplemental document to the application that also got submitted with our site plan that John did. I may save your time in reviewing all the myths of the dispensary, but I do want to reiterate that over half of our customers at our existing dispensary are over the age of 40 and spend over $100 per visit. These are not people that you think of. These are moms, dads, and people like us. So obviously the beneficiaries of this is businesses, nearby businesses. And I believe we have some of the business owners on this call that want to speak about that. It is shown that it does help local business, especially putting $1.2 million into a project. So I won't go over all the specifics. If you have any questions on some of these facts and these case studies that I've referenced, feel free to ask. But overall, the benefits of this project is we are looking to invest into the city, a capital investment to directly improve 5 lots that are currently blighted. Again, 1.2 million is our low estimate on this. Our presence will increase the value of nearby businesses. And again, the estimated excise tax, and this is a very realistic number based on our other dispensary, of $70,000 annually to the city in excise tax for this one location here. Locating it means more jobs. We're going to have security, video of the area. And finally, what's really interesting about this location of a benefit is competition. Last month, you approved the Zorba's location, correct? And with that, there's competition right down the road. And I welcome that, because with competition, there's three things that come out of that: higher efficiency, higher quality, and lower prices for the city residents. And that is key. And I welcome, and I spoke in favor of the Zorba's location last month, because I do welcome that, and working with someone else in our industry and providing quality medicine and product to the residents of Saginaw. Now, one thing I do want to address in this public hearing is that there is a concern that is brought up in your packet that has to do with parking, a parking concern. So what I'd like to do is talk a little bit about that. In your notes, it states that the traffic count on Gratiot is 11,982, and that there's a concern for people crossing the road. And to address this, I want to let you know that the speed limit there is posted 30 miles an hour. And also, more importantly, there is a pedestrian-controlled traffic light to safely cross the street to our building. Now, to contrast that, here's three examples of the city of Saginaw. The Saginaw Courthouse parking is across the street on Court Street from the courthouse. Four lanes of traffic, 30 miles an hour. However, there is no light there for the crosswalk. The crosswalk goes right across Court Street in the middle of the road with two white lines and no traffic light. The Bancroft, they have their resident and customer parking across the street, which is an Mdot road, a state highway, just like Gratiot. It's M13. Traffic count 11,962, which is almost exactly like Gratiot. However, Bancroft's parking, there's no controlled traffic light to control the crosswalk. Rather, it's just two white lines from their parking lot that goes over to by where the SVRC is. Right there in the middle of Washington, a state highway. So, it just seems very dangerous to me. The third one I want to bring up is City Hall. You have to park across 4 lanes of traffic of Holland Avenue. However, again, there's no light controlling any crosswalk there. It's just white lines crossing the middle of Holland Avenue right there to be able to get to City Hall. So I do want to make sure, it's understood that some of these situations or properties, like John said, because of when they were built, there are some challenges. And the city has obviously allowed these challenges to exist in city and county-owned buildings. So I would appreciate the commission to understand this concern, but to actually look at it realistically within the city. So to summarize, our plans, as John said, we submitted our plans and have checked all the boxes. As I mentioned in the last conversation, cannabis is not as evil as people think it is, and it actually will benefit the surrounding community. There's going to be 5 properties positively affected directly with this, with an estimated of $1.2 million going into this area. And our parking plan is safer than that of City Hall, the Bancroft, and the courthouse, all of which that do not have a traffic light for pedestrian crosswalks. So for your time, and I respectfully ask for your support on this project. Thank you.
Is there anybody else who would like to comment on this case?
I'd like to comment.
Your name and address, please.
Robert Young. I own the building at 1001 Gratiot across the street from this project. I also live at Greenpoint at 35 Riverside Boulevard, so I'm a city resident and a city business owner. Basically, I couldn't be more excited about this. I am the real estate broker that has this property listed for sale. I represent the seller. We had very little interest in this building. We did have one potential buyer that wanted terms because he doesn't have any money and he buys pallets. I'm not sure exactly how his business works, but it's kind of like the storage facility type thing. And he gets these pallets and then he sells them online. And he was basically going to use it as a warehouse. No, he was not going to fix it up. It's already nicer than he needed. I had an opportunity to meet Trevor. We do know some people from when he was originally from Saginaw. We know mutual people, but I've never met a more wonderful guy. He was apprehensive at first, I could tell, about sharing with me what the use he intended when he wanted to look at the building. He just wanted to have me show it to him, so I did. And in letting it out that what his intentions of using the building were for, I think he was quite surprised. 3.5 years ago, my wife had a major stroke. I came home to find her right in the middle of a stroke episode. We called an ambulance immediately. More than 1/3 of a hemisphere was affected. Extremely lucky we were, and we thank God. She had no memory loss and no paralysis. During that time, her recovery over the last 3 years, it was suggested that she get a medical marijuana license. She's 73 years old. So we went to Bangor Township, where my sister lives. They have several dispensaries there. In trying out a couple of the dispensaries, now I've never been in one because I didn't have a medical marijuana license, so I couldn't enter the building. That's how tight the security was. So I had to send my wife in there by herself. But she's pretty smart. So she went in there. It has helped her immensely. She has it takes away the pain. We go there once or twice a year when she's not a huge user. But we had to have the license. I am a big believer in the product. Nobody certainly suggested that she start partaking in cases of beer, but yet we have convenience stores all over the place. We have bars on Hamilton Street that have zero setback, just like this building, and they partake in that in those substances on site. If you thought being at these Bangor Township dispensaries, which I've been at in the parking lot, if you think you're going to sit in the parking lot and partake, you're sadly mistaken. These places are extremely well run, and I can tell that Trevor is probably going to be tougher than any place I've ever been to. One of the things I noticed on the other one that he was doing, that the person said, kind of use it as an insult, that he was a person of resources. Well, that actually is a good thing, because one of the things that he was Mr. Hoggard was complaining about was maybe a fence, maybe trees. Well, you know what? I've gotten to know Trevor well enough to know now that if you need something else, he'll do it. $1.2 million going to be invested in our little section of neighborhood where the Tony's is and where the Empty Cross business machines are, and then the bakery. I couldn't imagine that kind of money, where I'm going to ever find a purchaser in that kind of money. I've been in my building for 20 years now, and one of the most common things I get 3 to 5 times a week still. So I'll get a call, and it'll be a purchaser for real estate. One of the questions I've always asked is, where were you thinking about living? And one of the most common answers I get, anywhere but the city. Now, I'm not specifically sure why that is. I'm assuming maybe income tax has a lot to do with it, the least desirable municipality to live in, and plus you have to pay extra to do it. Maybe it's because of the low housing prices. I've sold lots of houses for under $10,000, and the city's the only place that does it. We need injection of to make these, especially an older building. I'm with Mr. Morey. I want to save these older buildings, but we need somebody that can come in and make them look absolutely new again, except they're the same old building. The setback thing kind of got me a little upset because in its entirety, Old Town on Hamilton Street does not qualify. Every building is to the sidewalk. And that's not necessarily a bad thing or a good thing. I can't imagine why that would even come into play in this situation. At any rate,
Okay.
that concludes my remarks, and I appreciate your time, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Young, could I get your address again? I'm sorry I missed it.
1001 Gratiot Avenue is my business.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anybody else here who would like to speak on this case?
I would. Hello, my name is Russell Inman, and I reside at 110 Braley Street, adjacent and across the street from this dispensary, this proposed dispensary. I grew up on the first block of Brockway, and this actually on the block where the dispensary is being proposed. I personally have a great love for this neighborhood, my neighborhood, because I've grown up here my entire life. You know, after I returned from college with my architecture degree, I actually looked. I could have purchased a home anywhere, but I wanted to be. This is where I consider to be home, this particular neighborhood, and I bought my dream house. It sits directly behind Tony's Restaurant at 110 Burley. And, you know, over time, I acquired additional properties around my home, namely to preserve the historic structures that I have a deep love for, to protect my neighbors that I care tremendously about, to prevent destructive uses such as liquor stores, and ultimately to protect my investment here of my home. I am convinced that the proposed dispensary will accomplish all these goals in addition to providing much needed job opportunities. You can imagine, I walked around the neighborhood the last few days, and I created what I believe is a list of benefits that we as neighbors in this neighborhood will receive from this beneficiary development, this dispensary development. And there is a plague going on, or a pandemic. And as you can imagine, many people do not and will not answer their doors, and it's quite understandable. But in walking around and talking with many of these, my neighbors, it's amazing how there was a few of them that were just absolutely negative on it. And we talked about it, and we discussed, you know, the facts about the thing and not the stereotypes. And of the three that were negative against it, two of them actually came around and supported it. To that effect, I was able to collect 25 letters of support from the people I encountered in my neighborhood, including some of the businesses. I think the one thing I really want to ultimately emphasize is that this single project will spur the development of at least, and the redevelopment of 5 additional properties. And 3 of those properties I am the owner of. So my properties are all vacant, and they're vacant for a number of reasons, but namely because I am not desiring of having businesses that will negatively affect my living conditions, the living conditions of my neighbors, or the businesses around me, including the bakery. I have a great, tremendous respect for them, and I want to do everything in my power to protect their interest. This neighborhood has been lacking in commercial investment for decades. My father, my brother, and myself own many properties on that first of Brockway, and this investment will actually help our area avoid the fate that has plagued far too many areas in the city, and that being the demolition and removal of these commercial properties. Because the loss of these buildings, it takes away from the historic character that defines our city, leaving it, you know, in its wake properties that have limited building areas due to the current setbacks and standards. So ultimately, I want to impress upon the commission how much I truly value the potential of this project and the benefits that it will provide not only myself, but my other neighbors. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone here who would like to comment on this case?
Mr. Vice Chair, I have some letter that I received based on Mr. Inman's comments. He mentioned that there's 25 individuals who wrote a support letter. The letters are all the same. It says, I understand Great Lakes Natural Remedies by their president, Trevor Wisniewski, has the intent of having a retail marijuana establishment located at 1014 Gratiot, Saginaw, Michigan. There are many benefits to allowing GLNR to operate a retail marijuana business at 1014 Gratiot. Number one, they're looking to invest in the city, and their capital investments will improve 3 city lots, which are currently blighted. Their presence and capital investment will increase the value of nearby businesses and real estate. Number 3, in addition to their $5,000 yearly license fee, their operations at this location are projected to contribute an estimated $80,000 annually to the city's revenue via the marijuana excise tax. Locating their businesses here means more jobs for city residents. And 5, locating their businesses here will provide 24-hour armed security and video surveillance cameras all around their properties in our neighborhoods. I wish to have the Planning Commission understand that I am aware that GLNR's plan for their location, and I fully support GLNR locating and operating a retail marijuana establishment located at 1014 Gratiot. And this was signed by Renee Brisboe, 1107 Gratiot. Karen Dupuis, 2573 Valley Drive in Saginaw, Michigan. Helen Siraki, 2771 Leroy Circle in an area code 48001. Carolyn Kemmerer, 3315 North Gleaner Road in Freeland. Thomas Inman II, 1203 Brockway. Megan Inman at 1203 Brockway. Leslie Shafford, 1212 Brockway Street. Thomas Inman, 1221 Brockway. Geraldine Inman, 1221 Brockway. Leslie Florist, it looks like 1227 Brockway. Nancy Brigham, 1312 Brockway. Alicia Castile, 1027 Woodbridge. Dennis Ray, 1119 Gratiot. Ryan Pugh, 921 South Oakley. Chris Garza, 702 Oakley. Hunter Johnson Jones. I'm not certain what that is. Looks like 908 South Michigan. Richard Russell, 1722 Wood Street. Roy Walker, 603 Westfield. Eric Lee, 2907 Douglas. Rick Martin, 357 9th Street. Brenda Story, 501 North Carolina. Brian Carper, 2732 Cooper Avenue, sorry. Lee Miller, 1329 Bagley Street. Joel Hosner, 2804 Collingwood. And Dan Magnan, 2015 Reinert Street. And that's it. And then
you got mute on.
The other thing is I just want to acknowledge that Mr. Inman also wrote a letter, but basically it contains the same thing. And that'll do it for you. Thank you.
Okay. Is there anybody else who would like to speak on this case?
If I could, please. Can you hear me?
Yes.
My name is Scott Kemmer. Go ahead.
Your address, please?
My address, the owner of Hamilton Bakery, 1030 Gratiot Avenue. Okay, this is my first Zoom meeting, so I'm assuming you can hear me.
We can hear you.
Okay. I would just like to express my opinion. We've been in business for over 60 years. I believe the city of Saginaw needs to incorporate new businesses. We would like to see that. My biggest problem is the parking lot, which we own and share with the new development. I've had extensive meetings with Mr. Wisniewski and Mr. Inman, and I believe Mr. Wisniewski to be an honorable and truth-worthy businessman. We have no problem with the parking situation as we have discussed. I believe he will do what we need to do to take care of that. One little note that we have, and I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but because our parking lot cuts off the corner lot or the corner light on Gratiot, we have a lot of people who run through our parking lot to avoid the light. They come in there at 30, 40 miles an hour, and some of them don't even stop to look on Brockway when they cross. I've considered this concern with Mr. Wisniewski, and he is more than willing to address this issue, trying with Mr. Inman too, with his background in traffic control, to try to eliminate this problem that we have. I would just like to say, as the business owner of 1030 Gratiot Hamilton Bakery, we are 100% support of granting this business to develop. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to speak on this case?
Hello, this is William Georges, 110 Braley Street in Saginaw. And my husband and I live in the house directly behind Tony's, and probably 3 or 4 days a week I cross Gratiot Street from our home to the bakery to get a loaf of bread and some milk and cookies or donuts or whatever. And I pulled the Mdot traffic counts for Highway 46 in that location, and for the last 3 years that Mdot has published, the traffic counts have gone down on Highway 46. The average daily count has dropped from 2017 to 18,154. 2017 was 18,154. 2018 was 12,042, and 2019 was 11,982. So I'm mindful of that. I'm mindful of the parking. As a resident that would adjoin the parking, I do think it is in our interest to support this. I do believe that it would significantly help the area, and I own Mike's Wrecker Service, and we are on Sheridan Street, right near the old Timbertown bowling alley. I grew up on Sheridan, and I've been aware of the business development at the old Timbertown bowling alley for GNLR, and been very happy with what they've done with the property and their security. And I think, what we've seen there over the last couple of years would be welcome in our neighborhood. And I support the development and the infusion of capital and resources that can really help revitalize our little neighborhood.
Thank you. Is there anybody else to speak on this case? If not, we have a motion to close the public hearing.
I move we close the public hearing.
Support.
Been moved and supported to close the public hearing on case J200048, special use permit for marijuana establishment at 1014 Gratiot Avenue. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Public hearing is closed. Is there a motion to approve case J200048?
I move we approve case J200048, special use permit for marijuana establishment to be located at 1014 Gratiot Avenue. The approval should be granted contingent upon the following conditions. Variance requests must be approved by the Board of Appeals on Zoning regarding the setbacks and the amount of parking spaces required so as to avoid the need for parking area at 1009 Gratiot. Review and approval by the engineering department with regard to the stormwater retention and utility connections within the proposed parking areas, and approval by the city clerk for adult use marijuana establishment license.
Is there support?
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Is there discussion? Is there discussion? Hearing none. Cassie, would you have a roll call, please?
All right. Tom Brayley.
Support.
Zenobia Dallas.
Yes.
Robert Hanley.
Yes.
Yolanda Jones.
Support.
Brenda Moore.
Yes.
Jack Nash.
Yes.
Jim Nightingale.
Yes.
All right. The special use permit has been approved based on the conditions stated.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is public hearing on case J200049, a special use permit for a marijuana establishment to be located at 2617 Bay Street. Is there anybody here to speak on this case?
Yes, hello. Good evening. My name is Aaron Rasty. I'm currently in Austin, Texas. And I'd like to start by saying thank you for allowing me to speak regarding our proposal for the proposed project at 2617 Bay Street, which is located at the southwest corner of Weiss and Bay. I'd like to first provide background about our company and team so the commission members and our neighbors know who we are. And second, speak to the specifics of the project. I am the co-founder and CEO for Sozo Health. We're a vertically integrated cannabis company. We're based in Warren with operations expanding throughout Michigan. And we pride ourselves on being good neighbors wherever we go. We currently operate one of the largest indoor cultivation facilities in the state. And we currently have 6 retail locations in various stages of development, with up to 5 more in our acquisition pipeline. For background, Sozo Health brings together a team of nationally recognized executives in highly regulated industries, including deregulated electricity, the spirits industry, and cannabis. Our team has significant experience ranging from real estate, redevelopment, and construction to operating retail cannabis stores. Prior to Sozo, I was the co-founder and chief operating officer of one of the fastest growing privately held companies in the US for many years, called Blue Star Energy. Blue Star Energy was in the deregulated electricity space and was licensed in 10 states, including Michigan, We operated in 32 utility footprints like DTE or consumers. We had approximately 200 employees and hundreds of millions in annual revenue. Our Chief Legal Officer, John Caston, and our Chief Financial Officer, Andy Hoyt, are also part of the Blue Star team. And our Chief Operating Officer, Christy Kelly, and our Chief Cultivation Officer, Nathan Kelly, have over a decade of experience in the cannabis industry, starting in Colorado back in 2009. Specifically, Ms. Kelly has been recognized as one of the top 20 women in cannabis and has been interviewed on 60 Minutes, in the New York Times, Washington Post, and many others. And I'm happy to answer any questions about our company or our team. For some more detail on our proposed project, the property is zoned B1 and is currently being used by a local accounting and business services firm. We intend to greatly improve and beautify the existing building and property to repurpose it as a cannabis retail store. The building is in excellent shape and will be reused without any proposed additions or structural modifications. However, we will make significant investment in upgrades, including the stormwater detention as required, and significant landscaping and lighting for beautification and privacy to ensure we're a good neighbor in the area. This will include a 6-foot tall privacy fence along the entire property line with residential neighbors, and we are amenable to a taller height. We are providing additional landscape screening of approximately 85 evergreen shrubs along the entire distance of the privacy fence, and we've made sure that our business will be a positive addition to the area. There's also an installation of approximately 50 more smaller evergreen bushes and flowering plants. There will be new construction on the interior, and we will provide a new exterior appearance. And for the neighbors and the public, I'm not sure if it's possible for someone at the city to share a picture of the rendering, but obviously for the commissioners, there were a few color renderings included for your reference, and we are really proud of how this will look when it's complete. We will install a new parking lot, and it will have new LED parking lot lights. Excuse me. The requirements based on the size for our building are 18 parking spaces, and we do meet those parking requirements. Our security systems are state-of-the-art. There will be 24-hour video surveillance, and we will have an on-site security presence before, during, and after hours of operation. As required, we've also provided a copy of our security plan to the Saginaw Chief of Police. Additionally, because we are located on Bay Street, we have applied with Mdot regarding our proposed site plan and the construction. Mdot has reviewed, and we expect an approval this week. I've spoke with them today. Upon Mdot approval, we are prepared to post the $30,000 bond as required. So as previously mentioned, Sozo is very experienced with these projects, and I'm available for any questions. Upon approval, if the Planning Commission were to approve us, we will proceed with building plans, and we're prepared to submit our cannabis retail application on January 4th when the city allows those applications to be submitted. We would then expect to commence work sometime in April or May, and we would hope to complete that project within, excuse me, approximately 60 days. So regarding our operations, Sozo has a proven track record of being a good neighbor in our communities. It is our preference to hire locally to stimulate job growth. We will join and are active in our local chambers of commerce, and we have a history, and our foundation of charitable giving is based on a platform of education, shelter, and food insecurity. Specifically to date in other communities where we are in Michigan, we've given over $60,000 in charitable support to these areas. And we look forward to being a valuable member of the Saginaw community for years to come. So in summary, we have met and or will exceed all requirements as provided for in the ordinance. We're extremely experienced and have a great track record of job creation, tax revenue generation, being a good neighbor, and a charitable partner. I do, as previous speakers have addressed, just to address some common concerns and to clarify, there is no on-site consumption allowed. There will be no loitering allowed of any kind. There will be no lines of people waiting in front of any residential property. We will have street and video surveillance. And as others have discussed and talked about their experiences, every customer that enters first comes into a waiting room area. They're required to present ID. And in addition to that, we'll go beyond on the privacy and beautification of this property through the use of the fencing and abundance of evergreens and other shrubs. Overall, our expenditure between real estate and construction is well over $1 million. And I'm happy to answer any questions for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone here who would like to comment on this case? Is there anyone here who would like to comment on this case? Is there a motion to close the public hearing on case J20-0049?
I move we close the public hearing. Dallas?
Support.
It's been moved and supported to close the public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Public hearing on J20-0049 is closed. Is there a motion to approve special use permit for a marijuana establishment to be located at 2617 Bay Road?
I move we approve case J20-0049, special use permit for marijuana establishment to be located at 2617 Bay Street.
Support.
Been moved and supported to approve the case J20-0049. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Ms. Miller, would you call the roll, please?
All right. Tom Braley,
Support.
Zenobia Dallas,
Yes.
Bob Hanley,
Yes.
Yolanda Jones,
Support.
Brenda Moore,
Support.
Jack Nash,
Support.
and Jim Nightingale.
Support.
All right. This special use permit has passed.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is old business, other project updates.
Hey, sorry, I won't keep you guys long. I just wanted to let you know that the Clark gas station that was approved last month contingent on getting a variance from the Board of Appeals on zoning was granted that variance earlier this month. So they will be moving forward with that project. Also, I wanted to give you an update. The Urban Tennis Foundation that came forward with a project, I want to say it was October, maybe in September, I'm not positive, with the updates to the Garber tennis courts. They are still actually fundraising, so I just wanted to let you guys know they do plan to have all of the funds available to start that project in the spring, but they currently have an anonymous donor who is willing to match up to $500,000 of donations that are made by the end of the year. And if anybody is interested in doing some support for this project, you can go to paypal.com/PayPalMe/tennis fund, or I have an address that you could mail it to if you'd like, and I can send that to you if anybody's interested. Just send me an email. That's all I have for you guys today, except I hope you have happy holidays.
Okay, thank you.
Vice Chair Hanley, if I could briefly address.
Yes.
There were a couple of questions that were raised by citizens during their public comments, and I just wanted to attempt to address those perhaps now for the public's information. One of the questions was with regard to potential operating hours of one of the applicants. Obviously, that's to some degree to the applicant's discretion, but the opt-in zoning ordinance does have a limitation on business hours for marijuana retailers. It can only operate from 9 in the morning till 9 at night. So I just wanted to raise that. Also, one of the other questions I think was just generally about, you know, kind of where we're at in the process. And I think they were kind of asking if it was too late to object to the city opting in at this point. Obviously, we're way past that point in the process. The city did adopt opt-in ordinances last fall, a few months ago, and now we're just at the point of potential marijuana establishments coming through the planning commission and the city clerk to get licensed.
Thank you for those clarifications. Next item on the agenda is space for public comment. Anybody here to comment from the public? Hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas.